Hello, everybody. Great. I love seeing you can put your cameras on so I can see who's in the room, even though your names are on there, but I love seeing everybody's name. If you can hear me, wave your hand hello. Good. Good. That means it's coming across. I see other people chiming in. Excellent. So welcome to this session of a little bit of formation for everybody regarding the Rite of Election that is coming up. And just to let you know that I did a session last Tuesday night over at Mock. We did it in person, and we had, of course, a number of people present. And I always like to check to see who is in the room in regards to people's experience regarding the RCIA. I know that many of you have already been doing this for years and years, but it doesn't hurt to hear some things over again, because for some people it's new, or if you knew it, you might get a new insight. And then again, you might have something to share. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation and talk over it at the same time. You can take notes. I was trying to upload the slides as a handout, which I did, but I couldn't get right to it. I don't remember where I filed it. I promise you that I will send it at the end of the presentation so that you can download the slides yourself. And this is being recorded, so you can actually go back in and watch it again if you feel the need to do that. Okay. We did have a couple of folks on Tuesday who were absolutely brand new and doing this for the very first time. So trying to take everybody into consideration in presenting the material. I am going to share my screen and get going with this presentation, walk you through it. Where did it go? There it is. All right. Oh, I'm so brilliant. I don't know technology. All right, Becca. You can't see that, can you?
Yes, we can see it. We can see your PowerPoint.
Oh, you can see my PowerPoint.
Yeah, so you're good.
Oh, okay. It's separated from the actual screen of all the participants. Okay, well, I don't want to take any more trying to figure out technology. So this is a workshop, obviously, on the Rite of Election. The Rite of Election is only one step in the entire process of initiation. Those of you who have been doing this for a long time know that the very first rite, in the way that we have the rite today, we call it the Rite of Acceptance. Another name for it will be, actually, once we get into the new order of Christian initiation, it will be called the entrance into the catechumenate. So we call it the Rite of Acceptance, and this is strictly for the unbaptized. Those who are celebrating the rite, who are already baptized, celebrate a rite of reception. But I want to keep this rite focused on the unbaptized. The second rite after the period of the catechumenate is the Rite of Election, which is what we're coming upon in just a few weeks. Following the Rite of Election, the third rite they celebrate is the Rite of Scrutiny. And of course, you know there are 3 scrutinies on 3 Lenten Sundays. And finally, they celebrate the rites of Christian initiation at the Easter Vigil. Now, some people might say, oh, well, we know we're coming to the Rite of Election, but what is this Rite of Acceptance? So I simply want to say that maybe you have tried to do the steps necessary to bring people into the faith, and I applaud you for that. But know that there are so many liturgical rites that are part of the entire journey that we should be celebrating this in its fullness. And so this would be the second rite in the process. What came before and what follows? So the rite of acceptance should have been celebrated in your parish even as long ago as last May. There is a portion in the national statutes in the back of the book that recommends that the catechumenate proper, that is, once they are in the catechumenate, that it last at least one full liturgical cycle, which means a full liturgical year prior to their initiation. So that would mean that from April, you'd go back to the previous April. So that's why I said at least last May. So that would be a little bit after Easter of last year. Now, anywhere along the way, as long as you have celebrated that rite of acceptance. The rite of election, it says, falls on the first Sunday of Lent, or in certain cases, because you can't always celebrate on the first Sunday of Lent, it's going to fall near the first Sunday of Lent. So here in the Archdiocese for us, it is, of course, celebrated also on the Saturday before that first Sunday of Lent. And then the scrutinies themselves fall on the third, fourth, and fifth Sundays of Lent, and the initiation of adults is always done at the Easter Vigil. And that is the full initiation of the elect. There is a difference for the candidates for full communion because, and I'm not talking about confirmandi, but candidates for full communion can come into full communion of the Catholic Church on any Sunday of the year. So really, this is, again, just a reminder, I'm speaking strictly about the unbaptized here. Now, some people might think, well, this is a chance for the bishop now to give them a welcome, because there's such a big focus on the role of the bishop in the rite of election. But there's a real distinct difference between the rite of acceptance or the entrance into the catechumenate and the rite of election. So in the rite of acceptance, it is the inquirer, him or herself, who has expressed a desire for baptism and also a desire to enter the journey or this discipline in order to prepare for the sacraments of initiation and for a life of discipleship as a Roman Catholic Christian. All right. And the other piece of it is that the relationship between the inquirer, who is going to become a catechumen, and the sponsor at this point is very, very new in most cases. They are just barely getting to know each other. The sponsor is a person who is from the parish and is given to this inquirer, this catechumen. Sometimes they say, oh, I know a person I want to be my sponsor. Well, that's fine. But if you think of the sponsor as being a bridge between the parish and the catechumen, this person should be a fully practicing Catholic who is a very good parishioner and is willing to walk this journey along with your catechumens. Now, looking at the same difference in the rite of election, the catechumen will now proceed to initiation based on the testimony given by his or her sponsor, who at this point becomes a godparent, and the bishop's acceptance of that testimony. They continue to express their desire for the sacraments of initiation and for a life of discipleship. But now it is more urgent, this expression, because it is imminent. Initiation is imminent. So you can see that because the catechumens proceeding or moving forward is based on the testimony, then we hope that they have spent enough time in the catechumenate so that the relationship between the catechumen and his or her sponsor / godparent is now much stronger and a much more intimate relationship. They have grown to know each other, and the godparent's testimony is going to be authentic based on what they are able to see and what they are able to hear, and based on what they know of this catechumen. So this is Archbishop Gustavo. It looks to me like this could be Saint Gregory, but I'm not positive. I think that's it. Is it, Becca? Saint Gregory?
Yes, I think so, before they took out the carpet.
Oh, okay. So in the theology of the rite, we have to look at the focus or the purpose that is expressed in the rite of election. I want to refer you to the RCIA ritual book, paragraph numbers 118 to 128. Just a reminder that the reference is not to page numbers, but rather to paragraph numbers. And this is the book I'm talking about, The Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. This is the study edition of the book. Most of you have had this for years, and you've had to take it to Kinko's for them to put a new binding on it because it's falling apart. You've worn it out. In the rite of election, the focus changes. God is the one who is now doing the choosing. God is doing the election of this person. The acceptance made by the church is founded on the election by God, in whose name the church acts. And so this material between paragraphs 118 and 128 are what we call the praenotanda to the rite of election. Sometimes when we're in such a hurry to get to what the rite is doing, we skip the praenotanda. So I would urge you just to go back and refresh your minds about what it tells us. It's got some theology in there. And it tells us the focus of the rite. Now, the church then acts in the name of God. And the one who speaks for the church is the archbishop and the bishops, the auxiliary bishops, who act by speaking for the church. But they're speaking really the intention of God, who it is to choose these people who, having undergone this journey of transformation, of conversion, are now ready by the witness of their lives to enter into the sacraments of initiation. The rite of election closes the period of the catechumenate proper, a lengthy period of formation of catechumens and of changing their minds and their hearts. Everybody has a different definition of what lengthy means, but I remind you that the rite book in the statutes reminds us the catechumenate proper is to be at least a year, a liturgical year of preparation. This particular rite of election opens the final period before initiation, which is purification and enlightenment, the Lenten period. It's a more intense preparation for the sacraments of initiation. You've heard it said that this is not catch-up time. Oh my gosh, we forgot to teach them about this, and we forgot to tell them about that, and we've just got to make sure that we check it off our list before they go to initiation. Well, it's not what purification and enlightenment is about. This is going to be more like a 6-week retreat time in which they are much more introspective, and they're able to meditate on the meaning of sin in their lives, but more importantly, on the meaning of the grace of God in their lives, because it is this grace that will bring them to that moment of initiation. The rite of election is also known as the enrollment of names, and this is carried out by them signing the book of the elect. And it is really as a pledge of fidelity that the candidates inscribe their names in the book that lists those who have been chosen for initiation. Again, that's found at paragraph 119. Another important element of the rite of election is that it requires the testimony of godparents and catechists, and that's paragraph 121.2. The element of their reaffirmation of their intention is part of the rite. And then the archbishop, who speaks for the church, judges their state of readiness and decides on their advancement toward the sacraments of initiation. The ritual testimony versus discernment and testimony at the parish. Let's talk about that for just a little bit. If you have studied any of these rituals, you know that there are dialogues or paragraphs with some questions to them, some answers, and I would say they are ritual questions and ritual answers. And depending on how quickly these are read, they can go by so fast that we really don't get the sense of what they're asking. We really don't get the sense of what the catechumens who are going to be the elect, we don't really get a sense of the depth of meaning, the depth of their answer. And so when we do discernment at the parish, again, that has to do with the testimony of the godparents and catechists. So one thing that I would like to urge you to do between now and the Rite of Election is that you spend some time bringing the group together with their godparents, with the catechist, and perhaps even with other members of the community to do nothing but give some wonderful testimony about these people. I was asking in the class the other night, I said, so can any of you participants give me an example of what you have seen as change in the lives of the candidates, the catechumens that you have been working with? And it was everything from, well, they're attending Mass every Sunday. That's a difference. One lady was talking about a little 8-year-old boy. She said he used to be a little terror in school. And now his parents come to me and they say, we don't know what you've done with him, but he's so polite. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Please. Thank you. He helps around the house. His teachers just are amazed at the change this little boy has undergone. And so, these are the things that are palpable, that are noticeable, and it's all based on the catechesis that he is receiving. But more importantly, more important than the catechesis is the worship of the church, the coming to Mass, the being with a community in the worship of God, and what they hear in the homily, and what they hear when they are dismissed to go and do the breaking open of the word. All of those are very, very important elements. The focal points in the Rite of Election, again, are going to be the calling by name of each catechumen. Secondly, the testimony of the godparents, the parish at large, as expressed through the catechumenate team. That's in RCIA 122. Now, up to this point in the process of initiation, the person who has been accompanying them is called a sponsor. The sponsor, in fact, can stay with them through the sacraments of initiation, but the title of that person changes to godparent. This particular catechumen has the right to invite a new person to be their godparent. And this would be the rite at which the godparent should begin to be present for the liturgies. Now, if the godparent happens to be out of town and very, very far away and cannot make it, the sponsor would continue with them as a proxy for the godparent. It can get a little bit complicated, but just know that in the majority of cases, the person who has been their sponsor is going to continue as their godparent. If you have any questions regarding this shift from sponsor to godparent, or godparent can't be there and we need a proxy, if you have any doubt or question, without taking a lot more time now, please do feel free to contact me in the office and I'll walk with you through that change. Something that is very significant in the Rite of Election is the signing of the book, and the elect by the elect as a testimony of fidelity to God and the church. Now, one of the things that happens in the Rite of Election is that these books already arrive signed. And so that means they have to have been signed prior to the Rite of Election. And so at the end, a little bit further down, we're going to look at the Rite of Sending in your parish. I do want to tell you that in my previous experience as the director of the Office of Worship here in San Antonio, I would so many times gather the directors of the catechumenate, and they said, well, we have this book, but it hasn't been signed yet. And then they would go and find their people, and they'd be signing the book in the parking lot immediately prior to the rite. So there is a way to get the book signed in the parish rite of sending. And then, of course, it's not ratified because the pastor is not the bishop, and he does not declare them to be the elect, but it can be signed at the parish in the rite of sending. So what brings these people to this point? You know, this paragraph right here, paragraph 120, if you go back to what should have happened between the rite of acceptance and the entrance into the catechumenate, the paragraph that we strongly refer to many, many times is paragraph 75. Paragraph 75 tells us what will be happening during the period of the catechumenate. And it's not just one paragraph, it's 75.1, 75.2, 75.3, 75.4, because there are 4 aspects of their journey that make up what we call paragraph 75. So RCIA 120 is kind of a look back at what should have been happening all along. So the catechumens are now expected to have undergone a conversion in mind and in action, just like that little 8-year-old boy, and to have developed a sufficient acquaintance with Christian teaching, catechesis, as well as a spirit of faith and charity. That's the missionary activity of the church. With deliberate will and an enlightened faith, they must have the intention to receive the sacraments of the church, a resolve they will express publicly in the actual celebration of the rite. As I said before, all of this is encapsulated in the ritual expression of all of these things that can unfold in a very organic and natural way throughout the period of the catechumenate. So 75 and 120, those two go hand in hand. What should be happening in the future, what is to have happened prior to arriving at this point. So at this point in the Rite of Election, as I said, one of the things that would happen in the past is that people were signing the book in the parking lot. And some would come with the signatures on a piece of paper that they had put into the book rather than having the book signed. Well, another thing that I would encounter is that I would have directors or at least the representative from the parish who was coming with them to the rite, who would say, I'm not sure who my catechumens are. Who are my candidates? And we have to, by this point, it's like very late in the game. Okay. This is something that you should have known 6 to 12 months ago. Who are the catechumens and who are the candidates? So be absolutely, absolutely clear about who is unbaptized and who is validly baptized. And if you have a question about the validity of certain baptisms, you can also reach out to me and I can send you the list of what we have as valid baptisms, or you can simply call me and do an inquiry over the phone. All of their marriage annulment cases should have been resolved by now. If they haven't been, and if you do have a reasonable expectation that this will happen between now and the Easter Vigil, they do celebrate the Rite of Election. I've had a number of phone calls already come in, and they said, well, this person is just now in the process of getting a divorce, and we don't know what's going to happen, and surely no annulment is going to be resolved at this point. I said, have them remain in the catechumenate process, but they will bypass this Rite of Election, and they will bypass this Easter. And if you can keep them engaged, they should be able to have a resolution by 2024. And so hopefully these people don't just fade into the woodwork and go away disappointed. Okay. So sometimes it's the work that we need to do from the beginning, not to promise them that they will be initiated this Easter, because we haven't really looked into the state of their marriage. Okay. If you don't already have one, you should purchase a book of the elect. And if you don't know where to get one, you can email me and I will give you the links, or you can email Rebecca and we can get you the links to where you can order a book of the elect. That particular book is large. Okay, and it looks like this. It's a red colored book, and the inside of the book is filled with lines. There are two different publishers that put out this book, and believe it or not, the two publishers do different things in the book in terms of the artwork and in terms of the way that they are lined out. One is CatholicBookPublishing.com. That one is $49. And the other one is ltp.org. And that one is $56. They're about the same size. One has more artwork than the other. And hence the price difference. Okay. Here we have Bishop Gary, and this is over at St. Rose of Lima last year. Beautiful shot there. And Deacon Ramon. All right. Looking at the Parish Rite of Sending. The Parish Rite of Sending offers the local community the opportunity to express its approval of the catechumens and send them forth to the celebration of election, assured of the parish's care and support. Now, if you have, and most of you do, both catechumens and candidates, then you would refer to Appendix 1, number 2, and you'll find the combined rite of sending catechumens to election and candidates to the call to continuing conversion. Now, notice the next phrase. It says, may be celebrated in the parish, RCIA 106, when beneficial or desirable. I can't think of a time that would not be beneficial or desirable. But the word may is important because that's an option word. You have the option to do it. You have the option not to do it. Okay. And so it's not a requirement for going to the rite of election. However, I would say that this is a great time because it's an opportunity for them to sign the book of the elect at the parish in front of the community. And then the community might start asking, what are they doing? Why are they signing that book? What does it mean? And this could become part of the homily of the day. If you're going to the Rite of Election on Sunday, the 19th, I'm sorry, if you're going to the Rite of Election on Saturday, the 25th of February, then I would suggest you celebrate a Rite of Sending Sunday the 19th, which is this coming Sunday. If you're going to the Sunday Rite of Election, then you can celebrate it on that Sunday because they're going from Mass to the diocesan Rite of Election later that afternoon. All right. This is not any of our bishops nor any of our churches. It's just a nice picture where you can see the deacons witnessing the signing of the book of the elect. It is done at Mass after the homily. In the ritual, it includes the presentation of the catechumens, the affirmation by the godparents and the assembly. And again, this is ritual text. So there's a call and response there, okay? That is very short. It can go by very fast. Now, pay close attention to the rubrics at paragraph 113. It tells us that if the signing of the book of the elect is to take place in the parish, then it's not done at the cathedral at this point. But if you're doing it, if you're signing the book of the elect in the parish, you should also then look at number 132, paragraph 132 from the Rite of Election, because you can use the text from the Rite of Election that calls them, that invites them to sign the book of the elect, again, without actually declaring them elect, because the priest is not the bishop. After they've signed the book, then there could be intercessions, a prayer over the catechumens. They're still catechumens. They're dismissed, and the liturgy of the Eucharist continues for the faithful. It's interesting that the people who sign the book are definitely catechumens only. But in the praenotanda to the Rite of Election, it says the book may also be signed by their godparents. Interesting point. So it's the catechumens. It may be signed by their godparents, but the candidates do not sign the book. The candidates are already baptized, and at some point, their name is now already in the book of life. Okay, so it's an image. It's a symbol for us that their names are going to be in the book of life. So we want people to come to the Rite of Election and participate, as Bishop Mike has been telling us all along these last few years to months to a year, that we desire full, active, and conscious participation on the part of everybody. So at the Rite of Election, of course, you know that we are celebrating not a full Mass, but we're celebrating a liturgy of the Word. And it will include an opening hymn in which there is a procession of ministers. When I was first doing this Rite of Election in the Archdiocese many, many years ago, we used to have a procession of all the catechumens with their godparents accompanying them. And the entrance procession was quite lengthy. Sometimes we had to repeat all the verses of the opening hymn twice over. But in order to make it more simple and yet accomplish what needs to happen, which is to open the liturgy by bringing the ministers to the altar, everybody begins in place and only the ministers of the liturgy will be in that procession. So there's a short opening hymn. Then there is a brief introductory rite. He moves from the sign of the cross to the opening prayer, because since it is not Mass, we don't even have a penitential act. The liturgy of the Word uses the scriptures from the first Sunday of Lent. And so it follows that same format: a reading, a responsorial psalm, a reading, a gospel acclamation, a gospel, and a homily. And after the homily, the rite begins. So those of you who have experienced this before, you know that the directors of the catechumenate process are called to come forward to line up by the podium from where you will announce the names of your catechumens. And so the catechumens go through the whole, their name is called, they come forward, they greet the bishop, and they return to their places. It used to be that catechumens would go up into the sanctuary until all the catechumens were up there. And what we have noticed in years past, not just because of the pandemic, but because it makes sense, that sometimes because we have so many catechumens, the ones who are standing up in the presbyterium, it can get very tiring. And some people actually need to sit down. And sometimes when you have children catechumens, they end up standing behind an adult. And so basically they don't see a thing. So this way, once they greet the bishop and return to their seats, they can then witness to the rest of the catechumens coming forward. There are 2 sung acclamations that will be alternating as parishes come forward. And when once they have been declared the elect by the Archbishop, the ones who do go up into the presbyterium are the directors. And basically, you're asked to hold the book of the elect with the pages facing outward. And during the ritual itself, you can hold it at a comfortable bend of the arm. But at one point, the archbishop or the bishops will say, and now I invite you to hold the books high so that the people may see. Now, sometimes when the directors are returning, you don't really go back to your place because you're going to come back to the podium. We used to do it to where they would go back to their pews with the catechumens, with the elect now, and literally show the books to the people in the pew so that the people could see the signatures. It was something really, I remember the first time I saw that, I got goosebumps from all the signatures. It was really emotional. Anyway, the directors, you've had your book signed by the bishop, you're up at the altar, you show the books for the signatures, and you come back to the podium where you then will announce the candidates from your parish. Okay. And the candidates too are called by name. They too will be coming forward to greet the bishop, and they too will return to their seats. The second time you've called names, you file in at the end. I'm sorry, you have filed in at the end of the catechumens, not at the end of the candidates. Once you've announced the names of your candidates, you are free then to return to your seat with them. It's really a lot simplified. It seems cumbersome, but it really is a lot more simplified. I'm sorry, let me get back to that slide. Okay. So then there are prayers of intercession, and there will be a sung response for that. And then we have the conclusion and the dismissal of everyone with a closing hymn. So it really is a very simple liturgy of the word. And then here is Bishop Mike. This is at Holy Trinity. We got some beautiful pictures from last year, and hopefully we'll get equally beautiful pictures this year so we can keep adding to the mix. That'll be really, really nice. So their participation is through spoken responses and prayer. One of the things, again, besides urging you in these next 2 weeks to get testimony from their godparents, from their parents, from members of the community, I think that you can look at the Rite of Election with them and say, these are the things you're going to hear from the bishop. And these are the responses that the bishop will expect from you. So we want you to respond using, as they say, using your outside voice. Okay? Respond fully, respond strongly. Sometimes the bishop says, are you willing? Are you ready? Or whatever. And you get this really feeble, I am, I do, and it's like, wow. I'd be really excited if I was up to this point in the catechumenate. Their participation is through singing. And one of the things that I find lacking in our catechumenal process is that we do not bring music into the catechetical sessions. And so if we have not taught them that Catholic liturgy is meant to be prayed and sung, they're going to come to this rite and have a very small level of participation through singing. So from my part, I'm encouraging the music ministry that will be provided at these various parishes to do those warm-ups that we do with the assembly by looking at the worship aid before the ritual celebration begins, so that they can practice some of those responses and some of those refrains, etc. Their participation is also through movement. And so when it's time to move, they should move. Now, speaking of movement, let's go back to the idea of you coming to the podium and calling the names of your catechumens and your candidates. Many times, if you haven't done this ever before or very little before, you want to call a name and you're expecting the person to stand up and start moving before you call the next name. That's just way too much time. So one of the things that you need to do is call a name, pause, call a name, pause, call a name. Whether they have stood up yet and started moving, that's okay. Just keep calling the names. Name, name, name. You don't have to rush through it, but don't wait until you see them stand up and start moving. Okay. We're going to have ushers in the various parishes so that when the parishes are called, the ushers can help them to get into the aisles quickly so they can come forward. Okay. The ritual logistics, we would ask for the directors to arrive early, as much as an hour. And we would ask your catechumens, your candidates, their godparents, their families to arrive no later than 30 minutes after that. If they get there too early, we're going to ask for patience, because sometimes the coordinators are still working on setting up the church with all of the reserve signs for the various parishes. And that really depends on the parish's mass schedule. Sometimes they've just let out of mass and they have to clear the church before we're even able to get in there. Also, the seating is reserved for the catechumen with a godparent. And I know that some of the young catechumens have 2 godparents. Fine, no problem. But, and then some of the children catechumens are going to bring a family member. But if you want to bring other friends, other family member, there is going to be reserved separate seating for them behind the parish groupings. And the reason is for ease of movement. You don't have to be jumping over everybody just to get out of the pew and into the aisle. Of course, the RCIA director will be seated with their particular parish. And then we've always done this. Every year is, 20 to 30 minutes before the rite begins. We do ask the directors to meet with the coordinator just to touch point again on all of these little logistical ritual things. But at that point, we should not be asking, I'm not sure who's a catechumen and who's a candidate. At that point, it's a little too late and they need to be in the right group. Some of you have seen these maps, these seating charts. This is St. Rose of Lima. This is last year's, okay? So if you're looking for your name on that list to the right, it's not there. It might be there, but this is not this year's list. It's last year's. And so you can see how many pews were reserved for particular people. And you can see over here on this side, all the white pews are where all of the extra seating can take place for extra family members and other guests. Look at this side over here. There was a whole section on this side that was open for guests. And also, I want to point out that your candidates will be seated on one side of the main aisle and your catechumens will be seated on the other side of the main aisle. And the reason for that is so that when they are called, there can be they can move much more easily to the front. Okay. It also helps with clarity for the bishops themselves. All right. So the naming of the parish, what to say, all of that, there will be a little half sheet of paper that will be given to the parish representatives. And it will just be a reminder to please name your parish and start calling the names. We don't have to create a little dissertation up there at the podium. The parish of St. Cunegunda is very, very proud to present the following catechumens. We go in this big dissertation. Just simply say, St. Joseph calls the following catechumens, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so the calling of names. Then the movement of people, ushers will indicate when to stand, where to move to. The candidates themselves, the candidates themselves do not have to say anything to the bishop. Sometimes they're so scared when they come. What are we going to say? I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And the response is, you don't have to say anything, but simply, if he talks to you, respond to him. It's a natural conversation. Okay, it's a very, very natural conversation. I hope this is not the first time that catechumens and candidates see a person in this big long cape with a pointy hat. Okay. I mean, I think everybody knows what a bishop is, but to say, yes, they're going to be wearing, these are the vestments they're going to be wearing, and maybe even explain to them the meaning of those vestments that are worn. Please remind your folks coming to the rite that they should dress in their Sunday best. No shorts, no t-shirts, no flip-flops. I've seen it. I've seen it. We ask you to provide them with a name tag. You, the parish, okay? In a clear, legible format. And if your candidates and catechumens speak only Espanol, so that the bishops can address them en Espanol, please write that underneath their name so that he can talk to them in Spanish. The sponsors do not have to wear a name tag. As a matter of fact, it might even be a good idea if they don't, because this avoids confusion. When the bishop is looking at the two people, if both are wearing a name tag, unless that sponsor is really clear about having their hand on the shoulder of the catechumenate, it could send a confusing signal to the bishop. So that's the other thing. Remind them of the ritual gesture of guiding their catechumen and their candidate with their hand on their shoulder. And finally, I would just throw in a word about your preparation for the Easter Vigil, for initiation. At this point, it would be a really good idea if the RCIA director could work with the pastor and perhaps include the person from your music ministry who will actually be doing the music for the vigil itself. And if you are in a larger parish and you have a person who is in charge of a liturgy committee, a liturgy team, or if you're a really big parish and you have a liturgist, then the people who should be at the table are the RCIA director, the pastor, the liturgist, and the music minister. Those 4 people at least. If your deacon has been intimately involved with the process of the catechumenate, bring your deacon in on the conversation, okay? When should you do this? Starting now. It's not too late. Right after Ash Wednesday to say, let's talk about the Easter Vigil. Some parishes have already done this. They did it since Christmas. But please don't wait until Holy Week to say, now what do we do? That's too late, okay? And when you prepare your elect for the Easter Vigil, it's really the godparents that you're going to be working with. On Holy Saturday, you should be celebrating the rites of preparation, and this does not have to be done in private. These rites are actually very beautiful to involve the rest of the community. So it could be done in the context of a morning prayer, in which you then celebrate the rites of preparation. It includes the Efeta, the recitation of the creed. They're going to recite the Nicene Creed early on Saturday morning, because at the vigil, the form of the profession of faith is the baptismal promises. So they would not get a chance to recite the creed until Easter Sunday itself. Be sure that you schedule a rehearsal. And for the rehearsal, I suggest that you work with the godparents. Walk the godparents through the rehearsal, but don't walk the candidates and catechumens through the rehearsal. Because for them, the leadership of their godparents is very, very important. And you don't want to take away the spontaneity of the rite. If they're worried, okay, what's next? And then I remember that was next, and I remember that was next. This is a night when they're completely under the care of their godparents. And it's the godparents that really need to know the layout of what is going to happen at initiation at the vigil. Okay? So that is the end of the PowerPoint presentation. And what I would like to do is to invite you at this point, if you have a question or a comment about anything that I have said, I'm going to invite you at this point to, you may open your microphone, you may raise your hand. I know that there are 13 comments in the chat. And I do want to, if there are questions in there, Becca, do we have actual questions in the chat?
Yes. I know Deacon Alvaro wanted to know about if they could receive the ritual booklet to allow them to practice the hymns and responses beforehand.
I believe that we are going to have that finalized in the next day or two. And yes, that would be a very good idea to send out a copy of the worship aid so that they can know ahead of time what that music is going to be. Excellent suggestion. Who else has a question?
John.
Yes. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Do we know which bishop is going to be at what church on the Rite of Election yet?
We do know, and I can tell you right off the bat, that St. Mark the Evangelist gets Bishop Gary.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You get Bishop Gary this year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dolores, how about Our Lady of Guadalupe and Helotes?
You know what? Let me see if I can find my list, unless Becca has that handy. But let me find my list.
Okay,
Here it is, actually.
yay.
All right. So Our Lady of Guadalupe. Oh, I need to know what parish you're going to, actually, because there's not a rite at Our Lady of Guadalupe. So
Oh, Rose of Lima.
St. Rose of Lima, that's
Yep.
going to be Archbishop Gustavo.
Oh, fun. Oh, fun. Now I have another question.
Uh-huh.
We registered for the Rite of Election under 2 different names. Dan and I are the directors, and then Shelley is another catechist that does the teens,
Uh-huh.
and she registered her kids. So should just one person go up there to call the names?
Yes. And you all
Yes.
need to decide who that person is going to be.
Okay,
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
hope-
this is Deacon Klaus Wilhelm from Our Lady of Perpetual Help in New Braunfels.
Yes,
my
welcome.
Yes, thank you. My question is, we have not received the date nor the parish or the
Oh.
church where the Rite of Election will take place for our parish, Our Lady of Perpetual Help in New Braunfels. Okay, is it last year? It was in Selma, and we are a very small parish, so we have only 1 catechumen and 2 candidates,
Okay.
which we had submitted.
Rebecca, do you know?
Yes, I'm looking for it. It's Our Lady of Perpetual Help New Braunfels, correct?
Yes. You and I spoke, Rebecca, the other day.
Yes,
So
it'll be St. Mark's, the Evangelist. And so
St.
that'll
Mark.
be on February 25th, Saturday at 10 a.m.
Saturday at 10 a.m.
And I can resend that to you.
Yeah,
Deacon,
if you
okay.
could send me an email. That would,
Okay, I'll resend that over to you with the corrected everything in the PDF file for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
I have 4 other team leaders that are part of my team. I'm the director. Will they be able to sit with our group, or would they have to sit with the family?
Usually we reserve one place for one director for each parish. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, if we get close to the beginning of the rite and there are extra seats where your parish reserve seats,
Mhm.
you're welcome to move into those seats. But at the
Okay.
very beginning, we would like to do what we asked, which is catechumens, their godparents, candidates, their sponsors, and the director. And then, as I said, if there's space right before the rite begins, you're more than welcome. Just like they do on an airplane, you're welcome to change seats if all the seats are not full.
Okay, okay, thank you. And family members are allowed to come?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
There's
thank
a
you.
reserve section for them. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Dolores,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Teresa. And who is going to be officiating at Uvalde, Sacred Heart in Uvalde?
Just a second. Sacred Heart in Uvalde is going to be Bishop Mike Boulette.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Timo. And who's going to be the bishop at St. John Newman?
St. John Newman. St. John Newman. That's going to be Bishop Gary. I think, Becca, one of the things that we can do is to send out a copy of the worship aid. We can send out the assignment of the actual presiders and where they will be for each one of these rites. And we'll think of anything else that we need to send you, but those two things for sure. All right, anything else in the chat? Let me look at the chat comments myself. St. Peter, Prince of the Apostles is going to be Bishop Mike Boulette. Okay, Sacred Heart Uvalde, St. John Newman. Yes, we talked about getting the worship aid, the ritual booklet. There's my email. Thank you, Rebecca, for posting that. Anybody who has a question or comment, you're welcome to email me. If you have the need for finding out about the valid baptisms, please contact me. I have not finished doing a complete entire composite of what we have from several sources. So we still are trying to clean up our list. So at this time, the best thing would be if you have a doubt, contact us and we'll let you know. Okay. You'll have that for the future. All right. It looks like there are 3 new messages. Let me scroll to the bottom. You just need a name on the name tag. And do they need the name of the parish? No, the parishes are going to be called up by groups. And at that point, it's not really an issue what parish they're from, just so that the bishop can address them by their name. And if they speak Spanish, Español, so he can speak to them in Español. Okay. Let's see, who will be at St. Rose of Lima? I said Archbishop Gustavo will be there. San Fernando Cathedral will be the Archbishop. That's his church, his mother church. All right, so we'll repost those when we send out these emails to everybody. The other thing is I'm happy to share, as I said, a copy of the handouts that are based on the slides that you received. But since this is being recorded, you can go back and look at the PowerPoint or even show it to the rest of your team members, which is probably a good little learning for them. Okay. Anybody else? Because if we have not answered your questions, you're certainly welcome to ask us still, but unless somebody chimes in, then we're going to be ending sooner than 3:30. Yay.
Okay.
Ronald Sandoval, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I've got a question just for you guys in the pastoral office, situation after everyone is, after the rest of the group is broken off. It's not really a big consensus type question.
Okay, that's fine. I'll stay on. Let's see, can we repost the email? Just, I joined late and cannot see the chat comments before I join. You can't scroll up, or you just didn't get those comments. I'd be happy to put it in there again. Let's see if I put it in right. Dolores.Martinez. Yep. That's it right there. So there it is. I just reposted my email address. Let's see, any other questions that were not Episcopal assignments or anything else? Teresa, did you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just readjusting.
Oh, okay. No worries. All right. Well, listen, everyone, I really appreciate the time that you've taken this afternoon to be with us on this Zoom presentation, and we hope that we made it painless because try to keep it as close to an hour as possible. Once again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Okay.
On name tags, do they have the saint names listed anywhere?
I'm sorry?
On name tags, are there saint names listed?
No, that's not necessary.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to stay on so that I can talk with Ronald. And the rest of you, I would like to thank you. Here came one more message. Let me just check that. Oh, okay. Thank you. You're welcome, Yolanda. All right. So thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a blessed afternoon. And we will see you at one of the rites of election. I can't bilocate or trilocate, so I won't see all of you, but I will see some of you. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.